this weekend. It's funny how your life just blurs into one big drama when you're in quarantine. You know, things just one day blends into another, and then the weekend's over. Actually, wanted to wash my castle today. I never got around to that. So, hello everybody. This is Reptile News or Carpet Python TV or whatever you want to call it. We go over a couple of platforms. I just wanted to say hello. My name's Maynard Bourneman, and this is just a random chat. So, for those of you that don't know, this is the face behind the Reptile News and behind Carpet Python TV. So we're getting our stuff back together because I think it's about time we do. I just spoke to Brent Smith at KHP Reptiles. I think it's sort of that point it's at that time of the year now when all the reptiles are really starting to kick into the breeding season. Oh no. Okay. Well, I'm getting messages here. I'm going to try and be not. Hello, Luke. Yes. Hello. I'm going to try and be professional here today. Just wanted to. I've got a message here. What I need to. So we're just catching up. I just wanted to see. It's good to do a test run every now and then and see who's around and who's doing what and who's doing where on a Sunday. I don't think there's many things to do. Sorry, it's very very busy. I'm busy. I found this new hobby that's taking up my life. So I've got this is my rig for the expos next year. So this is a mobile. So this is actually a streaming. I don't know what do they call it, encoder. So I can take this rig, walk into any place, and I can do live streams from wherever I want, anywhere in the world. This connects to my phone, and my phone connects to the 4G network or 5G or whatever, and that broadcasts it out. So I can go to different breeders' house, and I can do videos from wherever. So that's going to be the compact rig, or as compact as it can be. I've got a bigger camera. I've got a couple of cameras. This is going to be I think this is the more compact one of the two. This is the other one. This is the gimbal that's on this side. This is also, but this is to get smooth footage. Jason, boys. Phew, blast from the fucking past. How you going, mate? Kia ora, yes. Oh, that's put a smile on my face. I'm glad to see you around still. What mic is that on the mobile, right? Which mic? Which one? This one here? Oh, you'd have to kill me for that information. It's on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know. That is a Rode Rode Video Mic NTG. So this is the updated version from the Rode over there, the Video Mic Pro Plus. Right in the corner. I've got all these mics everywhere. And so this is my new hobby. You know, we need somebody to record all the stuff that's happening in Australia. You need somebody to be the voice there for the guy that's sitting in the background with his collection and it's doing all the hard work with the reptiles. And, you know, you need somebody that can make there's a few guys over in America that does it, but I don't think anybody really does it properly in Australia. So, hopefully next year, when we get back to life, get back to the new normal, as I like to say it on the internet. Hold on, I'm getting inundated with messages. Bloody hell, there's a lot of people around at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, random live stream. Oh shit, my computer's doing weird shit here. But as long as you guys can see me and I sound alright, then I'm happy. Oh goodness, yeah, no. Very exciting morning. Very exciting morning for those of you that didn't see all the drama unfold over the last few weeks. I won't go into it. I'll try not to go into it because we want to keep it family friendly around here. And then everybody, everybody's just messaging me, like that's just how life is. Let me see who else is here. So Jason, good to see you, man. Haven't heard from you in a long time. Lots of drama happening in New South Wales with, smugglers being caught and, I'm sure you've been, I'm not sure if you followed the news, Jason. You would have liked that little bit of news. Adam Milanovic. Did I say that right? I knew you'd be keeping a finger on the pulse with all the drama that's ensued. I mean, I love, there's always something happening in the reptile industry. Either somebody's making a awesome looking snake in a clutch, or somebody's causing issues. I don't know, for the people that are on the reptile, because I'm streaming this to the Reptile News as well. That's a far bigger audience than the Carpet Python. So welcome the Reptile News people. For those of you that are just there to see nice pictures of reptiles, sorry, we do video as well. I'm trying to really steer the channel into more video orientated content. But if you are part of the reptile industry, then just how dramaful. It's like watching, like my wife will like to watch reality shows, and I'm telling you, being in the reptile industry is like watching a reality. It's being part of a reality show. So yeah, sorry, I'm just shit talking here today. It's what we do around these parts. So if you're coming here to learn something, you're gonna waste your time, because we're not gonna learn anything here today. You can see the walking fish going nuts, and it might be a little bit too bright for them. You can see them swimming around in the Mexican walking fish in the back there. Oh, let me just put my one of my sponsors, my channel sponsors, light on in that tank. It's gotten so fancy these days. There's all these things that you can do now to spruce up your. We've got colorful lights for everything. Let me just see. I might just go daylight. What do we do? Daylight? Yeah, there we go. There you go. You can see zoom it. Oh, but now that walking fish is going to go nuts. Let's just see. Yeah, they're high maintenance. Oh, my God. Mexican walking fish. I thought, people were saying, they're easy. Man, I've had to clean that tank 3 or 4 times the last week. They are just defecation machines, if I can say that. Let's see who's James Morris, Jordan. Let me just say hello to people here. Adsy. Man, you've got 20,000 profiles. I'm struggling to keep up, man. Rode Video Mic, Luke. Yes, you've got the Video Mic is the small one. The Video Mic NTG is the bigger one for the full size cameras, but you can use them for mobile phones as well. So I'm getting off that. Darren Boswell, hello Darren. Jordan James Morrison, g'day. Luke Stratford, oh yeah, Luke, I've said hello. Jordan James Morrison, 9, yeah. Beverly Hills 90210 from those days. Gee, that's a blast from the past. Jason Mactup, oh yeah, Jason, love your continuous smile, bro. It's pretty funny. Yeah, for a guy that's been through the shit that I've been through, it's like, hey, island style. That's a nice island style, huh? Amy Nicole Defty, g'day. Zach Mac Dixon, hey mate, I saw your monitor. Very nice. The Heath monitor, Western Australian Heath monitor. I think you got saw you unboxing. It's funny to see guys unbox reptiles. The reptile people are crazy. Like we are crazy. We are. I think we're psychopaths. I don't know. Narcissists and psychopaths. And we a crazy bunch. If you're not crazy, you can't be a reptile keeper. It's as simple as that. But I saw you opening that monitor from the airport. And man, I miss that. I miss that rush. I used to get rushes from opening boxes from all over the place. For those of you that know me. WAD. Yeah, I do listen. I do pay attention every now and then. Oh my goodness, yeah, the drama. We'll touch on that at some stage in the week to come. Well, I think we'll be back on this mic always sounds like it's dropping a channel on the right ear there. Dave Ludlow, hey mate, cheers for getting back to me earlier. No problem, mate. I try and, of course, it's late night in the US of A. It's early morning, actually, I think. Let me just check, because I've got a few friends over in the US. Let's see who's awake. My wingman's still driving back to Nice. I think he's just finished now. He's on the way back home. Let me just check here. What time is it in the US? So in Louisville, where my brother lives in Louisville, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, late night, 1 o'clock. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty much that time. I know you guys, still driving. So you're supposed to be getting, or you can't drive and watch the show, Colin. Yeah, I'd get off the show if I was you. Just put down the phone, Put down the phone, concentrate on the road. It's raining up there. We don't want death on the roads. Let's keep it safe. So yeah, sorry. This program is a work. It's a work in progress. We try and jack things up here. We try and get the quality right. I think this is running at 50 frames a second, and we never drop a frame rate. That's just you listening, whatever. Sorry, I'm having the chat here as well. So I'm not sure. Let me just go over to the chat so people can see who's around. So if I go there, you can see the chat comments here on the left hand side. It's a little bit of a crop on me, but that's all right. So who's got what to say? Tell me some stuff. Who's expecting what? Who's if you're out there and you're watching, there's 28 people watching, random. This is one of my bits. So I've got all these little bits and gadgets and things and like handles, So this thing is a whole rig that I built. So for camera gear, let me just. So when you make videos, and this is all stuff that I'm learning now, so I'm reskilling myself. So there's all these lot to learn when you started to get involved in. G'day Daniel. So it's all these things that you learn when you start to get involved in making video and stuff. So this is the base frame for a video rig. Let me just see. I need to just cover my face. So there, shit. So you've got your camera sits in this little groove here. That's called the Arca Swiss plate. You tighten it down, and then on this frame you can mount all types of mics and lens supports and all that type of stuff. So this is what I'm busy doing at the moment. So on the back here, I plan to have a battery bank that gives your camera more power, because a lot of these small cameras can only go for a couple of hours before the battery run dry. And that's what I keep busy with these days. It's not just all reptiles. People get so involved in their reptiles that they forget to learn about other things as well. Lots of stuff to do. I mean, reptile keeping is such it's such an encompassing. You need to know a little bit about breeding insects. You need to know a little bit about keeping insects. You need to know a little about lights, electricity. You need to know about all different types of things, to make you a better reptile keeper. I struggle to see how people can just be, you need to be three-dimensional when it comes to keeping reptiles. The more three-dimensional, even more. You need to be like a 6-axis gimbal. Sorry for it's my own terminologies I'm using. But I think we will do a special night on this morning's event. Yeah. I don't even know if it's worth it. You don't want to give people, you don't want to give certain elements the type of airtime that they want. Because it just drives their sales apparently. Yeah, right. Whatever. So it's a very versatile industry. Or you have to be very versatile. You have to have a bit of depth when you keep reptiles. It's always important to learn how to build cages. Build your own cages. That's stuff that I taught myself over the years. You build your own cages, you breed your own insects, you breed your own feeder animals, you build your own rodent racks, you do everything yourself. And stuff like electricity, I'd leave for professionals. I've tried to do that and almost killed myself. Yeah, I electrocuted myself. My shoulders literally exploded in the sockets, to the point where they had to cut bone out of my hips to rebuild my shoulders. So there's, be careful. 5K bullshit. Yeah. Let's keep it nice, Colin. Let's keep it nice. Yeah. So we've dealt with that. I think the situation needed to get both sides on the table. The cards needed to be shown, and people need to be able to make up their own mind when it comes to information on Facebook. I think it's too easy to make a post to name and shame people these days. There's no recourse for this stuff. Although you can, I'm sure you can go to a magistrate and tell him to give you an order to intervene in nasty things that get said about you on the internet. But it's hard to do that when it's the truth. So let's see who else is out there. Nobody, come on. You have to calm down. Have to calm down. I know. He pinched a nerve. I know he pinched a nerve on you. I know he touched the nerve, and it's an open wound. Let's just move on. People get over it, and we build bridges, and we get not barriers. We can get over it. So who's out there? Who keeps what? What type of reptiles do you keep? Well, is there anything you need to know about reptiles? Is there anything you need to tell us? Is there anything happening in your area when it comes to reptiles? We try and I've got this idea about where I want to take. Here we go, George. Hello, mate. I've got the fridge for you. If you need to just come and get it. No, you don't need to. You have to come on the camera to get the iPad, Nicole. No. Hold on. I've got an intruder. Get out of my studio, please. And make sure that iPad is charged back in after. Are the kids playing on it or are you playing on it? It better not be for work. The iPad's solely for pleasure. All right. Get out of my face. Thank you. So George, please, I've got that fridge is in the back here, but the kids are here, and my father-in-law's here the whole day, and I've got a trolley jack next to the house. So if you need to move it from the back, there be somebody here to give you a hand. And I can also... what? Yeah, I told people, if you're coming here to learn something, don't shake your head at me. Can you just bring me a drink, please? Yeah, you need eggs, but you need your incubator set up. So this is one thing I can tell people. Always have your setup ready when it's breeding season. Even if you're not expecting animals, if you've got animals, sometimes they surprise you with eggs early, and then you're stuck there with no way to incubate those eggs. But the good thing about a python is that if you have eggs from a python, usually the female can wrap around it and she can incubate it, at least for a couple of days until you get your stuff sorted. But it's always good to be prepared. And in your case, George, the fridge is here. You'll just have to get a heat cable and a thermostat, and you're ready to go. So maybe do that, order it, because I know it's a bit slow at the moment with freight and stuff like that, unless you've got a standing thermostat sitting around there at the house. Thank you. What's that? Oh, thanks. No, look, I did not drink 2 liters of Pepsi Max by 12. I do like this stuff, though. It's not good for me. It's terrible. As soon as I stop drinking soda drinks, I lose weight. Lots of weight. It just falls off. I don't know. I think it's something terrible about gassy drinks. Yeah, Pleasure Pad. Yeah, I've got the iPad Pro as well. That's a beast. Oh my goodness! Anybody that knows a bit of tech knows that iPads are really becoming the laptops of the future at the moment. Any luck with those GTP eggs? Somebody's asking you, George. Any luck with the GTP eggs? I think Jordan Stokes, Darren Boswell. If you want longer than 7.5 meter, buy the Aqua One cable. It still comes in at 12 meters. Or you could just, we used to. It's tough now, but over the last few years, we always, like when we needed heat cables, we've got a contact, or we know somebody over in China that we know one of the big cable makers over in China. But you need a few guys to put an order in, and I think they've got a minimum quantity. But you can get those cables up to 25 meters for very little, and they come with an Australian plug, and it's exactly the same cables. They make all that cable in the same factory, so. I don't like to offer to help doing stuff like this, but if there's a few guys out there that want to buy heat cables directly out of China, I'm just watching these things behind me. They had a big old poo in there this morning, and I was trying to take control of that, but it's out of control. Here we go. I'll have a few 80-meter cables for everyone soon. Marty Viaga. See, I told you. If you're a reptile keeper, you have to dabble in everything. That's how you become a better reptile keeper. You have to import. Don't import snakes. Don't import reptiles. But reptile products, it's good to band together. Sometimes 2 or 3, 4, 5 reptile keepers, and you order heat cables, even if you don't need them. If the price is right, club in, get a volume order out of China, and then you've got cable. Heat cables are the best. I still have heat cables here that I got from Jason. Jason Boys he was in the chat just before. I'm not sure if he's watching still. But Jason Boys used to import the Vision racks into Australia. He was the first guy to import the Vision racks. Now, I still have heat cables that I got from him in 2007 that's still running on my some of my racks. It's unreal. If you can use a heat cable on a good thermostat, I have to add that you have to use a heat cable on a good solid dimming stat. If you can use heat cable on a dimming stat, those heat cables will last forever. You do, and if you make sure that the heat cable can actually air, there has to be airflow in the area where there's at least over part of that heat cable where it is. That's where you have to be careful. That's why I use a dimming stat, so it never goes over. Accidents happen. I mean, it's sometimes unavoidable. I think somebody told me the other day that they had somebody's rack caught fire. And these things happen. It's anything electrical can cause you issues. There's nothing that's 100% safe. Who else is here? So reach out Mari Buhagia. He's been on the show a few times, and I think you can find it at Reptilia. Reptilia is his page on Facebook. Let me just see if I can grab his page. Reach out to him. Mari always likes a dollar every now and then. Likes a little bit of coin. Yeah, I'm just messing. Yeah, I'm messing. Don't take me serious. Reptilia. Let me see if I can get. I think it's Reptilia. Let me just see. Here we go. I'll add the link to his page. Reptilia.au on Facebook. Copy. And here we go. Paste. So there's Marty's Buaja. Come on. Really? You butcher my name, It's not a perfect world. I'm sorry. Just Marty. There, Reptilia. Just call him Reptilia. Sorry, mate. Still love you. All right. Here we go. Let's see who else. I need a name for my Aki unisex name as is young. Oh, I don't know. Rocket. Call him Rocket. I don't know. What color is he? I found the grey Chinese ones are too inconsistent across their length. Yeah, but the ones that I think Brent got a bunch. I got some just from Brent the other day. He helped me out with a couple because a couple of my cables got damaged. One pro tip, if you've got Vision racks and you've got the cable, in recent years, I start wiring the Vision rack at the bottom, and the plug ends up at the top of the rack. So when you move the rack, you can just chuck the loose bit on top of the rack. But don't ever move a Vision rack around with that cable loose, because as soon as one of the wheels go over that cable, that wire is dead. So, pro tip. Watch out for that when you're moving your wraps. Yeah, sometimes they're inconsistent. But if you buy them from the same place, usually the length at the end, the dead cable right at the end of the cable is usually similar lengths if you buy them from the same company. Jordan James Morrison, I found you buy heat cables and they aren't even sizes though. Yeah, I think they. I've had 30, but 300 watts. I think what's a 10 watt a meter? Yeah, if you've 30 meter ones, you'd have to make sure that that's a decent. I always thought that it's a lot of if you connect one thermostat, if a thermostat can handle 600 watts, then to add one heat cable to it seems like a waste, because you've got 300 watts of power control there that you're not using. 30 meter one would 30 meter cable would be better than a 15 meter cable, I tell you, and 30 meters as well in a Vision rack. You want to use all those little pins that's on the panels in the Vision rack. I don't say this stuff for my first season. I spent 60 on a new cable the other day. Yeah, but you still have to. If you need a cable, you need a cable though. I mean, yeah, Sorry, I got all sidetracked with Marty cursing him out. Why are you cursing? Don't curse with me. Chris Hollett, do you mean pulse proportional stat or can you use dimming? Yeah, dimming thermostats are the best to use. Pulse proportional, it's actually the pulse proportional is this. Pulse proportional is very it was marketed wrong initially, and I have information somewhere in the archive in my phone somewhere about the pulse proportional thermostats is the real word for it, and they can operate under dimming or pulse. Proportional just means that there's incremental increases in power to get your temperature to where the temperature needs to be. I mean, I could be wrong. I might be wording that right, but that was the impression that I got. So proportional just means how your thermostat uses the current going through it to get your cable to the right temperature. So it either trickles the temperature through the current through slowly, and the resistance in the cable. I'm not sure. Colin might be able to help me here. And the resistance in the cable it's a slow increase in temperature, or pulse is like a pulse proportional is just a pulsating faster pulses of current, and then the pulsing slows down when the temperature gets too close to where the temperature is. It's very similar, but it was a marketing. The marketing was funny around it originally. Marty, LOL, yeah. 3 meter, geez, that's, there'd be 30 watts, definitely 30, it would be 300 watts, because that cable works in 10 watts per meter. Replying to Chris, I'll let both. Amy Nicole replying to John. Everybody's talking to each other. Yeah, generally it's 5 meter of heated cord and 1 meter of cord, yeah. About, 1 meter, 90 centimeters, 3 foot around. How would you gurus heat a 1200 by 600 by 600 cage for carpets that's burn proof? I would use a heat panel, and a lot of the guys here use a heat cable. You can route a heat cable into the bottom of. If it's a custom made cage by somebody that's building it for you, then it's better to get the cable routed into the bottom. And what a lot of guys use is they silicon a tile. In recent years, I never did that, because I used halogen spot lamps or spot bulbs, and you can use these guys. Hang on, where is it? Hang on, sorry. I have to say, I'm very, very happy with. I think there's one in here. Yeah, I'm very happy with these things. I've been trying these things out for a few weeks now. I would put a light fitting in. I'd make the cage low. 600 is too high. Like 600 is a good size, but you could put a shelf halfway in a 600 high cage. I would put a shelf in the back, and I'd have a light fitting in there with a cage around it, and I'd use one of these around it. So this is the Ecotech Spiral Pro. Ecotech Spiral Pro heat emitter. And these things are great. Like Brent Smith just we installed a whole bunch of these in his green tree python cages, and they basically just emit UV what's the infrared A, similar to what the sun does, but no heat. And these things, you just pop it into your light socket, and you let that sit there, and you give the snake an area where they can bask. And in the daytime, what I'd do is I'd even mount 2 of these next to each other. One of these, and then a halogen basking lamp. One of these from Bunnings. Hang on. So there's multiple ways of doing this. So you can go the heat emitter route this way. Or you can go, Bunnings sells these halogen flood lamps. I think that was like, let me just cover my face so you can see what it looks like. So, it's still catching my face there. So that's what it looks like. It's, there we go. Okay, so Bunnings has these. This is just a halogen spot lamp, but they're heavy duty. I've used these things for years. They don't look like much. They're only small, but they make a narrow beam. And a snake really just needs to have I've seen snakes. Snakes would put one coil over, they'd wrap a coil, one of their coils over. How does this go in there? Oh, here we go. So they wrap a coil around. If they can get one of their coils over a heating area that's heated, they warm their whole body. So they'll circulate the blood. So they'll put their coil over a spot that's warm, and they'll circulate the blood through their body, and that's how they warm up. That's our snakes in the wild. They put their head out of a area where they're sleeping, and they'll just warm their whole body. So the head will warm up, and the blood will run from their head all the way down through their body and come back and gets heat. It's like a solar panel. So. But I really highly recommend these, the EcoTech. They should be available now in the shops. Should be available. Really nice. EcoTech spiral plow. So have a look at that. Definitely an option. And then, of course, heat cable. So the other options, the routed base, routed floor, and then you stick your heat cable in there with the tile on top of it. Oh, that's what I've been told. I've never tried that. I used to use a lot of ceramic heat emitters, or you can these ceramic heat emitters as well. So this is the old classic. So the Spiral Pro, it works similarly to these things, but these things get extremely hot. But I used to have ceramic fittings with these guys in carpet cages for years, and they work perfectly to keep the carpets. You know, snake. It's not a. You should never overcomplicate these things. Snakes just need to be able to have access to heat and the basics, and they'll make sure if you give them a warm enough hot spot, they will make sure that everything stays fine. They'll thermoregulate and they'll keep, but you have to supply them with ample heat or the right range for them to stay healthy. How would you gurus eat? Okay. Nothing is burn-proof. Yeah, exactly. I've seen people lose collections because they had proper dimming thermostats and all that stuff. You can just try and make sure that you get your electricity installed by somebody that knows something about electricity, and don't wire things up yourself. I've done that a lot, and I've been lucky because I had people that showed me what type of electrical wiring that I used to do in South Africa and over here. It's basic stuff, like fitting plugs and stuff like that. But don't do advanced electrical work. It can just end in tears. I hope I'm not speaking. If you need me to repeat something, just tell me. All right, and we can do that. 100%. Amy Nikolgi. So, okay, I use a heat cord and thermostat sandwich between tiles and let rest of the enclosure drop to ambient natural food. Yeah. See, with the if a heat cable breaks in between two tiles, then there's nothing flammable there that it can light up and cause fire. The problem is if it's combustible, like timber or plywood, it's flammable. As soon as there's exposure, if there's a short circuit and there's a spark or it overheats, timber catches fire, and the same with plastic. In between tiles, you should be all right. But I still recommend there being airflow over at least one side of where your heating device is. Close dropped into natural cooling system in year round hot spot without electrical bill. Yeah, George, I heard you can't get Vision Tub separate anymore. Yeah, there's no. I don't think Steve's importing the Vision stuff anymore. So, and to me, a lot of guys would have just bought the tubs and not have bothered with racks, because the tubs last forever. The Vision tubs. Natural cooling with season changes. Sorry for typo. That's right. Following Reptilia for next build. Thanks, guys. There we go. So you should get a few likes at least there, Marty. Huh? I might butcher your name, but I send traffic to your page always. Huh? My carpet burnt its tail on the exact globe 3 days ago. I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah, I had some severe. I had an albino carpet python female that 1 year burnt her stomach. Ventral side so bad that I thought I was going to lose her. And that female, I just left her and she shed, and I gave her a course of antibiotics early on. She went through a shed cycle, and the shed literally just stayed there on her stomach. I didn't tamper with it. People that say, you have to help them shed. Well, sometimes it's better to not let them shed, because they will heal the skin under the old dead skin. And that female she must have taken 2 years to get fully healed. She still had the scars on her stomach, but she ended up having eggs and everything. And that was literally just because she had a cold. And part of what bacteria does, if it's a bacterial infection that causes the respiratory infection, what it does is it basically cripples your snake to be able to thermoregulate properly. That's why it makes them lethargic. It makes them sick. They don't feel like moving, and that just makes the situation worse. So they'll cripple your animal so he can't thermoregulate properly, and that's how they work. So at that stage, I think what I did was I raised the temperatures on the hot spots and whatever, and that female just got stuck there on the hot spot, and she just burnt her stomach. She just didn't bother moving away. But as I said, I kept through ceramic heat emitters, open ceramic heat emitters. I didn't even have cages around the ceramic heat emitters, these things in the cages. I've showed photos before of how I used to keep the snakes. They were literally bare bulbs hanging in the cage on a dimming stat. They never got that hot that they would burn something. They had a nice and low on the ground, and the snakes lived in those cages for years. I would say at least 10 years before I upgraded to racks. And funny enough, in racks I had more issues than in cages. And you can't see that. In a snake cage, if a snake gets sick, they leave these spit streaks on the glass, and a snake with a dry mouth, you'll see tongue marks on there. But as soon as they leave big streaks of phlegm on the side of the glass, it's sick. In tubs, you don't see it. I'm that good. I've dealt with stuff in collections over the years, and I can walk into a room and say something's sick in here, because you can smell that distinct oral, that infected lung material that they leave on the sides of their tubs. So it comes with that type of experience comes with age. Let's see, my cow had burned its tail on that exact loaf 3 days ago. I'm still trying to figure out how it happened. If they burn, if it's not a serious burn, I wouldn't I wouldn't worry about it too much. They have a tremendous way of watch the tail though, and if it looks like it's spreading, then maybe make a F10 has a barrier ointment. F10 does a type of ointment called it's just the F10 barrier ointment. If you go online, I think you can get a jar of like a tube, I think 30 mils or something like that, 30 grams, or you can get like a liter, like a 400 gram jar for like $30. And I've used that stuff inside mouths, to heal mouth rot. I've used it on scale burns. I've used it on tails, whatever. So look for that stuff if you're looking for a great non-prescription external ointment that you can use on injuries on your snakes or any reptile injury that's external on the outside of their bodies. You can use the F10 barrier ointment. Go and look it up, Google it, and then even in mouths, I used to take a cotton swab, and I used to dip it in that barrier ointment, and I used to apply it to the inside of a snake's mouth that had mouth rot. You still have to give them antibiotics. I did just the swabbing on snakes and raise their temperature, and a lot of them shook it. Sometimes they do need an antibiotic to get rid of that, to get rid of the cold itself, or to help fight the bacteria that's causing the issue. But a lot of the times I've just raised the temperature, and in a minor stomatitis in their mouths, just by applying that F10 barrier cream inside their mouth on a cotton swab every 2 or 3 days, man, that fixed it up. And I heard that, who was that? Matt Stockdale from Victorian Reptiles over in Werribee told me of that years ago, and I never believed it. And I tried one season, and man, it was the best thing I ever got. And the ointment lasts forever. If you get a big jar, that stuff lasts forever. Darren, it's such a shame that ProHerb had to stop making their panels. They're great. Yeah, but her Habitat also makes those the heat panels. The heat panels are also good. If you've got room, if you've got cages, heat panels probably the best way, because it's a nice big area. They mount in the roof. They can't go and lie on it and get burnt, and they come with internal protection to cut out if there's issues with the electricity, so you don't burn your house down. So you need always the best option is an electrical device that cuts out if it detects it. That comes with a control system that if something goes wrong, they switch themselves off. That's why I used to always like the Herbstats. I love the Herbstat thermostats because they had measures built into them that if something went wrong, it alerted you and it would cut the power to the heating element. And that's what saves lives. Yeah, no problem. Hello, Anastasia. Yeah, this was sort of an unscheduled thing. I like doing these unscheduled chats. I've got the Habistat panels for my GTPs. Yeah, it's if you look hard enough, you'll find alternatives. It was ProHerb, and then there was another What was the Thermofilm? Thermofilm. I think there's a company in Melbourne called Thermofilm that also had a range of heat mats. They also make those big outdoor radiant heat panels. And they made a short one. I was looking at that. If you've got really large cages, I think there was these almost like these heat panels that you could get at Bunnings for like $70 a heat panel that you mount on walls. It's like a passive heating, airflow. It heats the air in the room slowly and just, I think I'll have to have a look what those things were called. Remind me, Darren, and I'll find it for you. But I thought they were good. But you need really large enclosures. They'd be great for olive python cage. They were about, I would say they were probably about 400 by 400 wide, 400 by 400, and only thin. But you mount them with screws on wherever you keep it. But they say to try and mount it on the side of a wall. So I'm not sure if you can mount it on the roof. I can't see why you wouldn't be able to do that. But those ProHerb heat panels were great. It's a pity that Australia is such a small market for reptile products because there's so many awesome products out there that we could use for our own reptiles here. If we had the volume turn, because a lot of people will bring in the stuff, but then they go, it's not worth it because nobody, there's not enough people that use them. Let me just switch off that light in the back there. Those poor walking fish must be going crazy out there. Which light was that? Center off. That's the one. Yeah, that's okay. It's too much light in the background in any case. Yeah, and those ADSI, Adam, those panels would last you forever. The Habistat ones. The Habistat was known for the quality thermostats. I'm not sure about their thermostats though. I think their thermostats are still okay. I have to check the Habistat panels out. Are they Aussie retailers? I don't know. The last I'm not sure if they bring them in anymore. You'll have to check. Maybe contact Brian Barnett. He'd be the best guy to tell you if they are actually still being imported or whether you'd be able to get a hold of them or not. But you'll have, you could do you could probably reach out to Habistat in the UK and they will probably ship directly to you because I don't think they've got a distributor here anymore. I think the guy that was doing that got in a bit of strife, so we won't go into that here at the moment. You can message me later and I'll tell you, or we can figure out something. I might be able. Mixing the walking lizards, the water lizards are doing it right, mate. Hard work, measuring water quality and crap like that the whole time. Oh God. Thermofilm don't make them anymore. I had those back in the day. Yeah, it was the metal. The Thermofilm one was also. It was almost. I think it looked like when you open them up, it looked like it was like a element inside, like a dryer element inside that they've just encased in like a metal, like a plate metal, that they bent and pop riveted together to make it and attach the cable to it to turn it into a type of heating element. Let me just see here. Let me just quickly go in here and see if I can find out if Habistat heat panels. See if they come up. The herb shops. I reckon you should just reach out to Brian. I know Brian. He's not really involved in that stuff anymore, but he might be able to share a contact with you over in the UK if you ask him nicely, and they might be able to help you there. Yeah. Rajiv. Oh my goodness. Hello. Rajiv, all the everybody's sitting around playing with their parrots and their monitor, their 15 million lace monitors and their bloody 10,000 Rottweilers on a Sunday afternoon and have a bit of time on their hands to look at the live streams. Yeah. Hello, mate. Yeah, I hope you're doing right. I hope you're surviving in dirty Melbourne. Melbourne's the dirty word in us. Victoria's the dirty word in Australia at the moment with our COVID. I think we had 400. How many do we have today? 480 or something. You know, like the government's been saying, oh, the numbers are going to go down by last weekend. And all it's been doing is soaring, you know. 75 watts at 75 watt, but currently unavailable. Yeah, you won't. I buy all my stuff on Amazon. There must be an option. There must be an alternative. I'll do some digging. I'm pretty resourceful when it comes to finding equipment on. But I think you need to. I think you just reach out to Habistat in the UK, ask them about their state of imports. What's that? 457. What's that? RIP. Oh yeah, we are still kicking all right. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well. Always do all right. One of the few guys that I'm like a disease, mate. I'm always there. I'm like the industry's COVID. You know, I'm there causing issues always. And drinking I must be Iron Pepsi Max today. So yeah, if I can highly recommend. I've been using these things I've been just testing it. I've been testing that. Let me just. I want to show you this guy. This guy. So this guy a few weeks ago. 457. Oh yes, thanks, mate. I was like 457. That's a big number, isn't it? So this guy, I've been talking about him for this girl or guy, I think it's a guy. So this one is the one that was constantly shedding and not eating and not doing anything in the rack. So I spoke to Joe Ball. I spoke to Joe Ball maybe a month and a half ago, and he just said to me at some stage, he said, look, I asked him about it. I said, look, while I've got you on the phone, let me just pump you for some some information. He's like, okay, cool. This guy was constantly shedding and was just going downhill. All right. So Joe said, look, just put him. Some of them need like UV light, and some of them need to be just, they need UV light and be out in the sun. So I went, okay. So I pulled him out of the rack, and I ended up putting that in that cage to that side of the right of me. On your screens it's left, but it's on my right. And I gave him the Zumed T5 Slim, the 5.0, I think the 5.0, so not the strongest UV light that I've got. And I put one of those heat emitters in there. About 2 months ago, I did the change. And this guy is now, lick the mic. This guy is now eating, pooing, shedding, everything perfectly normal. So there's something to say about providing blue tongues. And a lot of guys say, oh, no, but they don't need UV light. They don't need this, whatever. But this, I can say you one thing. If you've got a reptile that is giving you issues, sometimes you need to just give them what they get access in the wild. And I don't even know. I wouldn't put it. I also administered. Okay, so what else I did was, so I might as well tell you the whole thing that I did, because it's quite it's quite involved. So. Okay. So what I did as well, I think a lot of people, some of these things are very stupid when it comes to drinking water as well. And I think a lot of these blue tongues, they don't know what a bowl is. So what this guy, so this girl or guy, she, I actually think that she might have gotten slowly and surely dehydrated over a period of time. So I use this stuff as well. This is the Exoterra. I just thought, let's just get her sorted out. We'll give her some electrolytes. We'll give her water. So every day I took a syringe, like I think it was a 3 ml syringe. I used like maybe a ml of this stuff, a little bit less, maybe like half a ml of electrolyte and vitamin D3 supplement from Exoterra. And this is not a paid spot. Like I'm not getting paid to do this stuff. This is literally stuff that I've always sworn by Exoterra and Zoo Med stuff. It's the only brands that I use. I've used Arcadia as well. I highly rate Arcadia stuff as well. But these guys have never let me down. So use the electrolyte stuff, like half a ml into like a 3 or 4 ml syringe. I think it's a 3 ml syringe. It looks like a 3 ml syringe. Every day I gave this lizard this liquid stuff, and then I paid more attention to feeding and stuff like that. But on top of that, I gave the heat emitter. I came out here in the middle of the night, and that lizard was lying under the heat emitter. So I provided it with a hotspot of like 38 for the whole time, and these lizards would come out at night. This lizard would come out at night and bask under that light. And now it's back to eating by itself, I don't have to do much effort. I've also discovered that this one likes to have those the loaves of dog food that you get, those round, like that processed meat that they give the dogs with veggies and stuff in there. This guy loves it, so I carve up some of that, and that's eating out of the bowl now. So I think that's a win. I'm always happy to figure out stuff. I like to figure out stuff. It bothers me. Like if not, I can see that they're going downhill. With blue tongues, it's pretty obvious. They start getting these bones in there, next to their pelvic bone starts protruding. Any reptile, any lizard that's pelvic area has bones protruding, the hip joints, bones start showing, is usually a bad sign. This is just a hypo northern. Uglier one, so it still looks like it's got thickened scales on the, but it might just be what it's like. These things, they get sick over years or over months, and they get better over months. So it's not like a human that you can see within days that they're progressing and stuff. Reptiles are funny like that. So they thrive under neglectful circumstances. Let me just put him away quickly. So that's my win, one of my wins for the year so far. And it's I like to be helpful when it comes to this. All these bloody products, all of this stuff I paid for myself. There it is again, just for you that don't know. It's just called the electrolyte and vitamin D3. Exoterra makes that liquid stuff. Let me just, never even, doesn't smell like anything. So but it's good stuff. Here we go. Yeah, we're still cooking. Yeah, Darren, yep, I'll do that. That's COVID, yep. James Lyon, I believe there will be new distributor for Ibistat, who is based in Melbourne. Yeah. It's a funny time at the moment. Nobody knows where the economy is going. Nobody knows what's happening with the exchange rate. Nobody knows what's happening with freight. As I said before in the show, like I'm friends with a few people that import, that has businesses that import stuff, and their import rates have gone up by threefold. It's gone up. It's triple the price now of. Container used to cost you $6,000 or $7,000. It's like $15,000 to clear a container now through customs, just with all the red tape. Because under this, the businesses that make money at the moment are the businesses that will take advantage of the situation that they've the COVID situation. I think there's a cable that's not touching in here. Probably always feels like there's one ear that goes deaf. Looks the goods, yeah. It's good now. The lizard's all fine. Reptic calcium changes as good as holiday. Yeah, of course. With my young blueies and shingles, I drop berries in their water bowls. It keeps their attention enough for them to learn where the water bowl is. Yeah. So I think that's, you just need to observe, like in a rack. And this is why over the years I've become, more and more orientated towards cage keeping. Yeah, I used to keep everything in cages. Then I started, when I had large volume, when I had 600 reps, 600 plus animals, I used to have everything in tubs. Even the lizards, I made custom tubs with lights and UV tubes, and it was great. You could keep a lot of animals in there, but it takes away some of that personal interaction that I used to like having glass front cages. Even some of my mates now that have large collections of racks have got some cages inside their house that they alternate the animals with, so that they can actually see the animals and observe them. And because we get into reptiles, we get into keeping and liking reptiles because we like looking at them. So I've always wondered, when did it change for me to have them in racks? I think it's just volume. You get to the point where it's so much you need to, one heat cable versus, 11 globes to keep the same amount of snakes happy. Because in a vision rack, you can literally have 11 V70 tubs with 11 full-grown Antaresia or whatever you want to keep in there. And you'll use 150 watt cable to keep it warm. Or in Mari's case, 300 watt, so a 30 meter cable would be 300 watts. Would keep a rack like that nice and toasty. I mean, I always thought a 15 meter was way too short. But a 30 meter would give you a nice little, but you don't see the animals. There's none of that, that visual, though. You can't get the visual cues if something's sick as well. So a lot of the time, by the time you realize that something's ill, it's over the hill ill. Unless you open those tubs every day. And eventually I think I end up getting into a habit where everything I used to look at everything at least once a day, or at least once every 2 days, to make sure that everything's fine. But if a big tip that I can give, especially this time of year, if you've got animals in cages and you see streaks of slime on the glass, you literally everybody else has got spotless glass in front of the cage. And that's why I'm very anal about keeping glass-fronted cages clean, so you can see stuff like that. I've been appalled walking. I've been into some collections where I walk in and I see the state of the glass, and I go, man, these animals use their tongues and they taste with their tongues and they drag anything in the air or whatever they lick, they drag into their mouths. If they are going over glass that has never been washed in say you've got a cage for 5 years and you've never washed your glass front on your cage, that snake is licking that glass and is basically dragging all those pathogens into its mouth, into the roof of its mouth to taste what's happening. Can you imagine how disgusting that is? That's go onto a dirty table and go into a park. Probably a park bench would probably be, go and run your tongue over the park bench and see if you get sick. Come on, let's do the right thing by animals. Let's keep them clean. And people go, oh, you anal. Yes, I like to keep my animals spotless. It's maybe not good for the immune system, but you don't want to expose them to a public toilet. I do think that public toilets, wherever I've seen some pretty dodgy ones. But let's think a little bit further. It's the same in racks. If people, sorry, I'm going on a tangent. It's the same with people keeping their snakes in racks. They clean the tubs inside, but they forget that the roof of that rack is where the most interaction with the animal is. So they'll flick their tongues and move their heads and they'll taste the roof of their rack. So sometimes you have to pull the tub out. You have to put a glove on with disinfectant or, paper towel, and you have to rub and clean the roof of your racks as well. A lot of people go, I never thought of that. Really? Yeah. Maybe that's something you need to do, consider that. Cleaning is not just the tub with it, clean the roof. Even a snake cage as well. I never used to clean a snake cage. Or the glass front to me is the surface where I think the most, because even the animals know that there's light coming through this part of the cage. They can't see light coming from any other side unless you've got lighting inside the cage. But the glass front of any cage, you always walk in and you'll see a reptile always be cruising and licking the edges. And they'll know. Snakes know that there's little gaps in between where the glass is because they constantly try and pry their way out of there. Same with lizards. You always come in and lizards are sitting there staring through the glass because for them, their perceptions are not that there's glass there. They just can't understand why they can go through there. So that area there is probably the area that needs to be the spotless in your cage. Well, that's in my opinion. I could be wrong. Sorry, that's my going off tangent with reptile hygiene. Well, but I think it's fair. We need to, they can't clean their own environment. If we want to keep them in a box, then we need to do the right thing by our animals, and we need to make sure that we do the cleaning for them so that they are not constantly exposed to things that can make them sick. With my young bees, so I'll try that. Putting a berry in the. I'm expecting some baby blue tongues this year. We'll see how we go. There's a guy that used to do reptile relocations in Bali. He used to use Gatorade for electrolytes. I've used Tony Harrison one day. I had a female python that was egg bound, and I've done it with bearded dragons as well. Sometimes beardies lay eggs, and they don't always lay all the eggs, so they get a couple of eggs stuck inside them. And I've used that with bearded dragons as well. That's gone over their lay date. Although with beardies it's hard to know exactly because you sometimes miss the ovulations. But with reptiles, if you know what you're looking at, you can spot an ovulation a mile away in any species of reptile. So, but I remember Tony Harrison one day on one of the threads on APS they were discussing egg binding and dystocia in reptiles, and he said that the orange, if you have a snake or something that you suspect has gone over the lay date and that has a problem, is having issues, you need to dose them up, even over a couple of days, dose them up with orange Gatorade. He was very specific, orange Gatorade. And man, I tried that stuff, and in everything that I had a couple of things that I couldn't forget. Sometimes it's just way past fixing, and a veterinarian needs to be. But if you catch it early enough, and especially with bearded dragons, man, even geckos. I had a Pilbara knobtail gecko once that had eggs that got egg bound, and I gave her some of those some Gatorade, only a few drops, like a mil of orange Gatorade, and that gecko had those eggs that same night. Now it could have just been that was when. But I could see her tail was thinning out. Like when you can see that the animal it's struggling, especially in geckos, it's very obvious. Especially knobtail geckos, the tail gets all skinny. They get all skinny quickly, and then okay. And I gave her some of that, and she was back to normal the next week. Same with bearded dragons. I've tried it on bearded dragons, the orange Gatorade. I've tried it with carpet pythons, and it's all worked. So good tips there. Good tips, Of course, the tip session. Anybody that's got any good tips, shout out, and I'll talk about it here. Duncan McRae, who had the Bali Reptile Park. That name sounds familiar. Duncan McRae. That's was he Aussie? He was an Aussie as well, wasn't he, Duncan McRae? Some of my more timid lizards enjoy the safe feeling in a rack. Yeah, I had a great. Don't get me wrong. I had great success in racks. I produced hundreds of reptiles in racks, hundreds of them, if not a few thousand at least. Peter Nicholson, yes, Peter Nicholson used to hate jaguars as well. Oh my goodness, he was one of the biggest jaguar carpet python haters. But he saw what he did to their market. He saw what he did, what jaguars did to their market what he did to the gene pool in Bali. So I don't know. I'm still a big fan of jags. My lizards would love it if only looked at them once a day. Yeah, but they don't mind. They don't care if we don't look at them. Yeah, that's a good thing about a reptile. You don't have to coddle them. You don't have to wrap them in cotton wool. They do better if you give them. Like even in the good old days, I remember trying to deal with. I see all this information. I see all this advice on the internet. People saying, if something comes down with a mouth infection, you need to do this every day, and that is probably the worst advice that I see people throwing around, is that you need to interact with a sick reptile every day. You don't. It's like this. It's like a snake missing a shed, and then people say, "Oh no, you need to soak it for days, soak it in warm." You're just stressing the animal out. You need to stop what caused the issue. You need to hydrate the animal. Most cases, if you can hydrate the animal, if you can force a shed, I used to like calling it forcing a shed. It's like with hatchling. Sometimes a hatchling carpet comes out of the egg and they don't absorb the yolk properly, and then that snake has this real sticky shed that just doesn't come off. And if you try and help them shed that or whatever, eventually the snake just dies. The best situation, the best thing to do then is to try and force a shed off that snake. And what you do is, what I used to do is I used to give them a couple of pinky, force feed them, assist feed. We'll be cancel culture correct. Assist feed the snake a couple of rats because I'm really good at it. That's one thing I do. I can really do that really well. Assist feeding animal. I've done so many. Like the more you do it, the better you get at it. I used to give them drop 2 pinky rats down their throats, hatchling carpet, and I'd let them go. And then that first, as soon as it has nutrition in it, they just have enough. They don't have that oomph to get that skin off. So you feed them, you get them to have a shed, and then that skin comes. A big thick shed. That's usually a big thick shed that comes off, but they'll shed it. It's the same with a standard size carpet python. If a snake has a stuck shed and you can get it to eat, and a lot of times they eat. There's no issue. You just need to inject, like I used to inject water into this. I used to make sure there's fresh water. I used to inject the food with water. And then I used to feed them good solid meals. And because it's usually over a period of time that they suffer dehydration, they get dehydrated, and that stops them from being able to get rid of that skin that they've got. That layer of skin, they need to have a boost of like a hit of nutrition for them to lift that skin and just get it off. But this whole meddling with them, and I used to do it as well, and then I realized, but man, this is just putting a lot. By the time that you finish shedding them, they all limp and they look half dead because you stress them out so much. Leave the animal alone, fix what caused the shedding issues in the first place, and then usually the animal can deal with it. They're made to survive. Reptile, I struggle to see why people, I'm part of a few groups, and I look at some of the information that some of the more salted, some of the more experienced people give in there, and I go, but how long have you, do you actually know what you're doing? Have you actually, because anybody can keep a reptile, but very few people can know and understand reptiles. Good example. David Kirshner is one of the guys that I watch his videos and stuff. I go, man, this guy knows his stuff. This guy is so, like little things. Like I saw a video of him the other day, his most recent video, where he's got documented cases of ovulations gravid lace monitors, where he's taken photos of them resting in the same spot over like a 10-year period. A female in the same spot with her stomach hanging in the same place, doing the same thing year after year after year, and that's part of how he knows that they gravid. I mean, that is that is reptile keeping. That is reptile keeping, not some of this, not just regurgitating. I can see a mile away when somebody just regurgitates information that somebody told him or that he read in a book. It's like reading this other garbage the other night. A reptile, a python, to probe, it probes 3 to 4 scales deep, like it's like, unequivocally, you can't prove me wrong. But that is the information, and that is accurate, 100% accurate. They probe 3 to 4 scales, and and that's the norm. No, don't argue with me, because that is how it works. And I just look at it and I go, really? Let's be positive. Let's be positive. Okay. So I hope that was how long did we go for? An hour? I think these shorter videos are nice, but I think see the numbers dropping up. But usually they watch it afterwards, and I'm usually all my best mates come and watch the show after I stop being live. So it's good seeing the guys. It's Adam. I haven't seen Adam Milanovic. I'm going to try that. You're going to tell me one day when I run into it at an expo. Come up and say hi. Go to 10. I had a female go to 10. Yeah, I was talking. I did a show yesterday, but I got too carried away, and I think I stepped over the line, so I deleted it afterwards. So sorry if there's some of those of you that watched. You saw me having my tirades. I don't want to try and move away from all the the negativity. I don't want to be constantly called the negative side of the industry, but we need to be realists. It's not all sunshine and roses in our industry. There's the drama, there's the good stuff, there's the bad stuff. And I think there needs to be, people need to talk about this, the good stuff and the bad stuff. It can't just always be the good stuff. I'd love to be the good stuff. I haven't harassed you in a while. Finally, Rob McMillan pokes his head out. Colin must still be driving, or he must have listened to my warning about getting off the phone, watching the show. Hello, Rob. Hey, mate. So yeah, but I think it's important to talk about everything. It's not just I'll do once a week show, the carpet bath. I might do a show on Friday or Saturday. I don't know. We'll do a show whenever the guys can come on and have a chat. I like to just be off the cuff and just talk about stuff that people like to know. I like to be on top of the reptile products. I like to, I've got a few things that I want to show how the UVB. I've got one of these as well. I haven't even used it. It's been sitting here for a couple of weeks now. I got given this to have a play with. So that's a UV index meter, the ZooMed UV index. So you can see those lights are just no UV coming out of it. So it's got the UV index range up here. Red is the dangerous UV levels. So if you walk out in the sunlight and you poke that thing on it and it falls within those levels, so greater than 7, then you don't go out. It's like Sunburn City, and then if you 0 to 1, so it's got the range here, so you know where it is, and it says shade crepuscular. So your minimum, I should have yours this week, Luke. So it's got the ranges from 0.4 to 0.7 is for shade or crepuscular reptiles. Range level 2 or the Ferguson zone 2 is 0.7 to 1.0 is mostly partial sun, occasional full sun animals. Then moderate range animals is a zone 3, and that's 1 to 2.6, mostly full sun, occasional partial sun. And then for the high range is level 4, and that is 2.6 to 3.5 or more midday baskets. So that'd be your beardies and stuff like that. So I can't wait to try it. I'll try and make a video. It's actually better to keep it there. Yeah. And great little tool. It's not the UVB meter. I used to have the one with the green front from Solar Meter, and that one used to just measure UVB output. So the thought process was that the UVB meter is to see if your light actually emits UVB still and how much. And this is the one that you use to see if your cage is providing a dead spot where there's no UV and if there's good spots for it to bask in. Okay, so it's about $500 for that. It's expensive, but it's a one-off purchase. That's what I always say. You buy tools once. You get, if you're a serious reptile keeper, then you get yourself one of these units and you've got it forever. I've seen guys that's had these things for like 15 years that have never replaced, never had it get calibrated anymore. If you look after your things, this will be a once-off, and this will spare you many years of deaths in your collection. Not that I say it's hard. It's not hard to keep reptiles, but some species you need to have a little bit of tools. You have to have the right toolkit. If you're a reptile keeper, you just need to have the right set of tools for the animals that you keep. Oh, guts hanging out there. Kylie Scott, here we go. So ZooMed sells them. ZooMed's actually, they've got them in stock. So you need to go to your local pet shop, and you need to just ask them to order them one in. So you go to your local. If you're Australian, if you're in the US, you can go to your local pet store and just order one in. In Australia, you can also go to, if they reptile shop, if they keep a range of reptile animals, they can order you a ZooMed UV index meter in. But it's a great tool to have. Keeps for years to come. Yeah. Harass you a while. So, okay. So I'm not gonna keep harping on or whatever. We'll do we'll do these shows more often, and I'm glad to see that people popped in. Thanks. There we go, Liam. Yep. So it's seriously, I wouldn't recommend those things. The UVB meter that I used to have, I realized, when I started keeping bearded dragons under T5s, it was before people knew in Australia about the T5 range, because I've always been friends with the guys that imported the stuff into Australia. I think my first tubes that I got through Shane Simpson. Simpson helped me in years back. Arcadia was brought in by a separate company. I can't remember who they were. Some fish import mob or some fish product mob. And I got the T5s because I used the T8s, but in the tubs that I had, I used to keep them in Vision boa tubs. The tubs used to be about 20 centimeters high, and I used to keep these like 1 meter tubs. They were huge. People that know boa tubs, I had like 70 of them, and I had T8s over them, and I just felt like there wasn't enough light out of the T8s tubes. That's a thicker standard. That's the fluorescent tubes that are thicker, the more standard tubes that most people keep their reptiles in. And slowly over time, so this must have been in 2011, 2012 or something like that. So after a couple of years of using that, as soon as I changed, I noticed the light output was different. It was a much, much higher light output. I think 3 or 4 times more UV output than the T8 stuff. And that's when I started, they didn't even have the fittings to it, to run T5s. I think, what was the stuff? I used to have these little adapters, dongles that fit onto the sides of them, and I makeshift stuff. And, it's become so easy now to keep animals under the right equipment because there's a lot more awareness of these products now. And eventually I changed over to Zoomed. I got a good deal to swap over my Arcadia tubes for Zoomed tubes, and I found the Zoomed tubes to be, I don't know, I just like them. I like to buy products that have got local backing, and I found that the Zoomed brand had better support and backing in Australia than the other brands. It's the same with the Exoterra as well. A lot of the stuff Exoterra, if anything breaks on an Exoterra cage, you can get it replaced. If your Zoomed globe breaks up before a year, or I think it's got a year warranty, the T5 stuff, and their ballasts and things like that. If they break, they're made to work for years. But there's occasionally, I think out of the 70 starter units, I had like 1 or 2 that failed straight out of the box, and they had they knew about it. It was slim line. They worked beautifully on those chrome frames that I've got in the back there, and I used to keep, and I used to run those T5s 1 hour in the morning, and I think they came on in the afternoon for an hour or so. And I never had issues with metabolic bone disease. I've never had beardies eating each other. I never had any of those issues. So I can highly recommend it. And then you get an index meter, or you need to get a UV, and that's where I use the UVB meter, and it used to give me a good idea of how long, and those tubes just kept going and kept going and kept going. But in retrospect now, with what we know now, the UVB index meter is the way to go. When you're a serious lizard keeper, and a serious, even monitors now, the more we find out about it, and I sometimes think it's a little bit exaggerated, like everything needs a UV. Of course, for years we haven't needed to use UV. Now suddenly there's this whole school of thought that says we need to provide them with environments more, we need animal ethics is now a big thing in our time that we live in. And one of those things that we need to provide them with is a way to bask and have UV and stuff. And I've seen it with the blue tongue as well. That blue tongue that didn't want to do anything, he's just sitting there, just staring at me over there now. It feels like I've abused him in front of the camera, didn't get permission. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. I'm keen to get guys on here that are working with lizards and UV light and stuff like. There's a few young guys out there that are doing some good work in Australia, especially some of the YouTubers are making constant videos. I know how hard it is when to keep things fresh and get burnt out. If you do too much of this, it burns you out. So sorry for the guys that have followed us. We've been a little bit short on content in the last few weeks, but I feel like I'm getting my mojo back, man. We need to get back in there and help people out, and if we can give advice and look at some products and things like that, we'll do that. We are the original reptile show here in Australia, so or live stream at least. But thanks a lot for the guys that stuck by for the last hour and 20 minutes. I really appreciate it. Look, I'll be in touch with the guys. Reach out to me, Darren. Tell me how you went with that. We'll see if we can figure out these heat panels. See if we can track it down. Remember to get into touch with Marty Buaja at Reptilia if you're looking for long heat cables for your racks. That's a good contact to have. Marty's a great guy, and he'll look after you. And thanks, folks. Have a great day. For those Melburnians here that's struggling, keep up the face mask. We'll see. Hopefully we eradicate this thing soon, and hopefully it goes over. I can't wait to get my life back and be able to visit people and make some live streams from guys. I've already spoken to a few guys that are keen on having cameras there when they're cutting the eggs and showing off their new mutations and showing their collections off and stuff. And I'm looking forward to it. Really am. So have a great Sunday. Was good listening to you, bro. We'll have to catch up. Well, yeah, I don't know. I thought you were dead, man. Yeah, I always got along with you, you know. It's good to hear from you, Jace. Okay, but in any case, and we've got some catching up with because of your other mate. Yeah, the old mate. I'm sure you know what happened down there. So, but keep the peace, and yeah, we'll have some. We'll have to do a show of all this drama that's happened this morning as well. But I'm sure keep an eye out. I've made a post of it earlier. So thanks a lot for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Keep safe. Bye bye.